can close that. I can close that.
All right. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning. How you doing?
Good morning. Doing great. Happy Father's Day. Who's a father here? Jeff, Big J, Frank, Chris, and I were the smart ones. We like keeping the population going to other people.
I envy you guys.
I don't even have a cat right now.
Not even a cat?
What?
So what? I have.
I'm God.
Yeah, for the first time in my life, I'm living totally alone. Every other time where I've been the only human in the house, I've had a cat. But
well, we can fix that.
I intend to get a pair of cats, but I want to move first because I'm currently in an apartment and it was kind of cramped. And I want to get young cats. When I had an old cat, the apartment was perfectly okay for that because all he wanted to do was just basically curl up and take a nap anyway.
Yeah,
but now young cats would go crazy in this place. And I would go crazy because they would be all over everything. I mean, look at my background. Do I really want young cats climbing up there?
No, because they would be all over.
There's a reason why that door stays closed and they don't come into this into my office too often. Because they, or else they would raise hell, which they do. I finally have all my piles of, you can see my piles of paper that's actually organized, but it was all over. They get in and they immediately go to destroying the paperwork. So I see Big J's got his shaker cup as well.
Oh yeah. I keep my blender bottle. There's a protein shake that I've got going right there.
Good for you. I'm right now I've got green tea. Oh, that's good. You need to get the Muscle Milk Zero. It has no sugar in it.
Yeah, I'm the thing is, as a bariatric patient, I'm going for max protein. And the other thing is, I think the Muscle Milk Pro tastes way better than the Muscle Milk Zero.
I never worry about the taste in protein shakes, unfortunately. If that and honestly, I buy the little pure proteins from Costco because that's your best buy. You get them for about $1.07. What they're 18 for $30. What's that come out? It's like $1.70 a piece. But I don't drink them a lot just because there's so many other things in them when they package them.
Yeah.
They sell at Costco a big, huge bag of protein powder, and I researched which ones they have. And like Big J, I make my own, and I add my creatine. I add some collagen into it every day, and there you go. And that is best because there's so few ingredients when it's in a package form and you're mixing it. When they mix it, you got all sorts of shit.
Yeah.
Heck, I've just been, I just noticed in my keto bread is made with seed oils, and I'm just like, oh fuck, now I can't even have the keto bread. Stuff. So it's always my diet has changed radically, and the big thing is I pay a lot of attention to the labels these days.
I've got a friend who's allergic to soybeans, as in a trip to a restaurant would probably be fatal. Like seriously allergic.
Oh wow, yeah, because you never know if I guarantee you if they're frying in shitty oil.
Well, and his comment was every time he goes to the grocery store, he has to reread every label because soybeans are such a good source of protein and they're cheap that people keep adding it to stuff.
Yeah.
And the thing about restaurants is, he said, it doesn't matter how cooperative they are, right? He said, they just don't know. They just don't know.
And that stuff can just slip in anywhere, and it's tough to cook anything because you've got that cross-contamination you've got to worry about as well. And thank God I'm not allergic to anything, because I can't imagine.
No, it's true. Go ahead, Chris.
I was going to say, in his case, there were only 2 other people on planet Earth other than himself, who were allowed to cook for him. And that was his wife, who unfortunately recently passed away after a long bout with MS, and his daughter. They were, and his mom, when his mom was alive, she was allowed to cook for him too. And other than that, he just would bring his own food to everything. And I found out about this when I called him up one day. We were in grad school together. I called him up and said, "I've been studying all day. Let's go get a pizza." And his response was, "I can't do that. It would kill me." And it's like, what are you talking about? And yeah. And
right. He meant it literal.
Yeah. He wasn't joking.
Well,
he had an aunt who married into the family had always said she only used real butter and in her cookies. And he had a cookie and she was lying.
No.
And one cookie sent him to the ER, and he was with anaphylactic shock. He his throat went like that.
And an ER trip in America can bankrupt you right there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, listen, going out to a restaurant is the more I get into nutrition, it's so funny. You get into, there's like different layers of seriousness about true nutrition. And, one layer is just, I'm going to go on the keto diet or this and that. But once you really dig in, with people that really know what they're talking about, and you realize going out to a restaurant, it doesn't matter what you tell them, it's going to blow your diet. Oh, just do me a favor. I just want steamed broccoli. They're not going to just steam broccoli. They're putting in something there. They're seasoning it or oil. And, the chefs, they don't give a shit because they're like, fuck, it's not going to harm them. They're not in the mode of listening, of understanding the dietary restrictions of some people or the dietary preferences of some people.
We'll steam it in fat and salt.
Yeah. Right. Well, I gotta put some oil in there. No.
It's also a game of telephone, right? The person you talk to is not the person making it.
Right.
I mean, I've had situations, so I can be really, really anal retentive about notebooks. And Alec, if you think I can talk for a long time about Warhammer 40K, ask me about notebooks sometime. And I had situations where I called up the company and said, okay, I've got a very particular request here. I need to know the exact dimensions on something because of I won't get into the details, but I needed to know the exact dimensions of something. And I talked with the sales guy and he says, "Oh yeah, I measured it. And when I get it, it's wrong." Because it didn't matter that I had told him I need to know to within 1/10 of an inch.
Right.
He got it to within about 1/4 of an inch. And I could tell that from the damn picture. He didn't tell me anything I didn't already know from the picture.
Yeah. There's and this is green tea, and I've started. I bought some green tea once because I knew it was good. I keep hearing how good it is for you, and so I'm like, okay, so I'll have some green tea. And I made some green tea, and I don't always want something hot, and so the other day I said, why don't I make iced tea out of it? And so there you go. There's a whole pot of green tea and now I just pour it over ice, and God, it keeps me hydrated, and it's got all sorts of good stuff for you. But it is, let me tell you, it is not easy. It is not easy to eat healthy just because one, you have to understand what that means, which is just voluminous amount of information about food. And then two, you have to put it in practice, and then you have to be consistent about it. And oh my gosh, it's daunting, but for anyone out there, you start with the small things. Make small changes, right? Eliminate margarine. If there's any margarine in your diet, there should not be. It is deadly. Get rid of it. So there's a small change you can make right there, right?
Well, and eating healthy seems to be discouraged because it costs more. So there's that. There's certainly a higher cost to it. You've got fast food that's everywhere. So
Which is crap.
Yeah.
Crap.
Yeah, but that's the big thing is you go to the grocery store and you say, okay, I'm going to eat healthy. Well, they're going to make you pay dearly for that because there's such a focus on eat this stuff that will help you be obese, and if you're going to eat healthy, then how about you pay double for it? So it can be really discouraging just going to the grocery store. Oh, you want to buy organic? Good luck to you on that. Hope you got a raise at work.
Yeah. But yeah, and the whole food industry is leveraged against you.
Yes.
It is all, the food industry is all about what, although they don't say it, it's all about killing you. It's all about addicting you to shit that is bad for you. You know, as I dove into it over the past year, since I had a little health scare, there's pretty consistent. All the nutritionists, all the doctors, all the experts, they all basically say there's three things you got to focus on getting rid of. One is sugar. Easy to understand that concept. Two is refined grains, which is basically every carbohydrate that there is out there.
Yeah.
You know, where even whole wheat bread is this much better than white bread, right? It's just, think of it, if it's looks like a carb, you should not be eating it, and which is daunting, right? You know, which is really daunting. And then because even the things that you think are healthy are just, you look at the ingredients and it's like, holy shit. And then the third thing is seed oils, which is basically, you know, soybean oil, canola oil, corn flour, cornseed oil, all those things that everything is fried in. Mm-hmm. Everything is fried. So basically, the only oils you should be bringing into your body are avocado oil, coconut oil, and the best, of course, is olive oil, right? Now, there's some others like macadamia nut oil is good, and there's some other ones like that. But all the oils that anything is fried in, and it's not just that, it's like they use it in everything. They use these shitty oils. And once you hear, like, we think, oh, well, it's just soybean oil. But the process of making soybean oil is so chemically oriented and so bad that all these oils are basically rancid when they're being used in your food. So it's just, again, it's all leveraged against you. The food industrial complex is leveraged to make you sick.
Yeah, well, they're paid up with the right politicians.
Yeah, and I just read that they're putting together $1 trillion farm bill for like the next 10 years or something. And it's unfortunately it's all. I hate to say it's a scam because that's the wrong word, but yeah, it's all a scam.
Call it what it is.
By the way,
I've been on a journey myself from the fact that I found out I was diabetic 4 months ago. So I have been doing a lot. I don't know if you can notice, Alex, since the last time you've seen me, I have lost 30 pounds.
No, it looks it. I was just going to say, Frank, you look a little slimmer.
Yeah.
And I have been walking and I have been watching my diet. And of course, the sugars are gone. So everything that you guys have been talking about, I have been well, the first thing I found was, and I had known this, is that diabetes can affect your eyesight. And the biggest thing in the world to me is my eyes. So that kicked me over, just like quitting smoking and quitting drinking 25 years ago. When I knew I was going to die, it kicked me over. So the minute I found that out, I went on, dropped all breads, all sugars, and I've been eating salads, fruits, lean meats, and things like that. And on that journey, and, doing the exact thing that you guys have been talking about, counting those labels, going in the supermarket and making sure that what I'm eating is not processed if I can get away with it. And that's one of the biggest things is the damn processed.
Ultra processed foods are just killing this country.
Now, Frank, I'd hate to make you look bad or call you out, but as a former husband, this all sounded familiar. It seemed like you made it sound like that was your idea, but it wasn't.
Actually,
and so all of this was Miss Parker's idea.
I was just about to point out that
it was sounding a lot like Frank came up with this one day.
Hey, by the way, Frank? Are you using a continuous glucose monitor?
No, actually, fortunately, when I found out I was diabetic, and I started it, I was at my A1C was, I think it was 6.9. I had gone over into so my last checkup about a month and a half ago, I have brought my A1C back down to 5.9, which is back into pre-diabetic. Of course, since I've gone over, I still am considered diabetic. For the fact I went in for a procedure, an endoscopy and a colonoscopy, and my blood sugar was really good. It was 96 that day. So they've decided that unless I really start feeling it, I don't need the meter.
Listen, and a meter, I looked into it myself. Not that I'm diabetic. My blood glucose is fantastic. A lot of health experts, certainly some of the people I'm following, the real healthy, are using it simply to monitor your blood glucose and to understand your body better. If you're really fitness oriented, it's really good because you'll see. I mean, if you have one, they even have them for the watch now. That you eat something and you'll see in 10 minutes, you'll see what it's doing to your blood glucose. And so you go, wow, I didn't think that whatever would impact my blood glucose, but it does. So anyway, unfortunately, it's kind of expensive right now. Now, the other thing is, tell me you're not using Ozempic.
No.
God, no. Okay, stay away from that shit. All those GLP-1 agonists are fucking, it's the worst thing to hit.
I'm a naturalist when it comes to things like that. I'm eating the fruits and the vegetables. I don't have any medication. The medications that I have are, for things like, minor depression and stuff like that. But as for, for weight and stuff like that, I'm doing it naturally. I'm doing the glucose because of the fact that I firmly believe that the mind controls the body. If you put yourself into that position and you work well with it, very quick example, years ago when I was in college, I had mononucleosis. They told me I was going to be down for like 6 or 8 weeks. Within 2 weeks, they couldn't believe that it was out of my system because I just concentrated on it. So you never know. You never know.
I do want to get, we have a Realm caster here. It says he's been out of loop. Yes. So what I'm going to tell you is go to our website, axanar.com. That's the best, easiest place. Or you can check here on the YouTube channel because we have updates and we have podcasts. But the website, you just scroll to our blog. You'll be able to read right across the top and see what's happening. We have finished principal photography on the next 2 episodes. We finished in February. We are in post-production. We are working on the VFX now, which we shared some the other night. I'm going to share some now. So yeah, things are cooking, and we're real excited. And we've got 2 great benefactors, Dave Lanning and Goodney Goodison, who have been funding us to get us across the finish line. And honestly, I got to tell you, those guys are amazing because if it wasn't for them, I don't know how we would get Axanar done. And they've spent a lot of money, and it's been great. I mean, we've been able to do everything first class. We've had 3 shoots because of them that have gone great. We have 19 actors on film. We're about to put a 20th. We got a little insert shot we're doing next month. But yeah, so we're we're excited, and I think most people here on this little group, the four of us that you see here, have seen the roughs, and I think everyone is pretty excited about what we've shared so far.
I haven't seen the roughs yet.
Well, that's because we don't respect you, Frank.
I know. Yeah.
No. But by the way, is that your bridge set?
That's the new one. Yes.
Holy shit! It looks great.
I ran down before this, and I hadn't got this together, and I turned all the lights on and everything. I was like, let's show Alec. So I did it, and then I got here, and originally when I tried uploading it, because it wouldn't let me do the film, of course, it said the picture's too big. It's such crap. So you saw my original one in the beginning. So you didn't see when I got in there. I've been playing in Photoshop to get it down so I could get it up here. And I did the changeover while you guys were talking.
That looks really nice.
No, it looks great, man. I can't wait to see it. I have just for Realmcaster, I just put the link to the Icarus maneuver. It is on our website. Even though CBS are violating the settlement agreement and not letting us post it on YouTube, we've posted it on our site because they can't fucking file with a takedown notice with us. And it's also going to be on an offshore site shortly. So do check that out.
It's a great film. If you haven't seen it,
it's
check
fantastic.
it out.
Yeah, we're real happy about it, and that's kind of what's coming. I think there's a lot of people who are going to be shocked about how good the next two episodes of Axanar are on. It's taken, listen, it's taken 10 years, but boy, the payoff's going to be pretty damn exciting. I mentioned we have 19 actors for Axanar, and they range from. I would have to say that. They range from good to great. I mean, a couple performances, I'm like, yeah, that was good. That was right on. But then there's some people who are just fucking amazing.
Yes, I can tell you firsthand from having been there. Yes, you are going to be amazed.
It is amazing. And, we actually had to recast one role, not Karn. People, ask us about, were we going to recast Richard Hatch, and I never would recast that role, and but we didn't need to. Because, as we've mentioned, we did pull some footage off the editing room floor of Richard Hatch as Karn, and that makes it into the next two episodes. And plus, we gave a lot of his lines to a new Klingon who's in the main Axanar script. It's a character called Moreau. And we gave it to an amazing actor who you all know, who I'm not going to mention, but he just nailed it. It was so awesome. And
he really did. Alec is not exaggerating. There were several times during takes where you would just see people look at each other like, how shit. Did you, this guy, like, yes, it was amazing.
Yeah. Amazing. And then we have actors who you will never have heard of, who you'll go, who the fuck is that? And then, like, holy shit, they're great. And I'll give a shout out right off the bat to Tina Ari, who
that's what I was thinking of, actually.
Right? Tina is one of my classmates from Howard Fine's acting class from 2012, and she happened to move to Atlanta. And back when we've shot, I guess that was February of last year. So a year and a half ago, I invited her to be an extra. I think it was on the Icarus shoot. And
yeah, I think so.
Right. And then, I was like, well, it might be interesting for you to play a Vulcan. Why don't you? And I gave her the lines, and I told Mark Edward Lewis about her, and she's used to auditioning on video. So she shot herself, and she and I worked. She sent me stuff, and I said, "Nah, you got to do this." And I sent her, I sent her tapes and links to watch other Vulcans, and then Mark started working with her. This is all within the course of a week. the week before the shoot, and she got to the shoot, and oh man, it's a little different than what you've seen in Vulcans. It's a lot what you've seen already, but she brings her own take, which is just freaking amazing. So we have, there's just some great actors that you've seen laying off. We showed you some of the laying off stuff. There's just some great stuff, and so with 19 actors, I'm going to continue to say I'm the worst one in the whole film. There are just some brilliant actors that you're just going to enjoy the hell out of, and I think the next 2 episodes will just blow your mind, and you will be, and because now we're working on the VFX, and the VFX are a lot of fun.
I'm looking forward to it. I've been thinking about that, and it's going to be good.
Yeah, let me pull out another shot here. I'm going to download a shot, and then we'll show everyone. Now, what we're showing a lot of, folks, is we're showing what's called previs, and previs is this is what we was that one. Previs is the VFX team. What they do is they do it like a rough. It's kind of think of a sketch. Like if you're commissioning art, someone might sketch it out and say, okay, this is what I'm thinking of, right? Mm-hmm. And that's kind of what we're talking about. The first thing you see is
it's kind of like a practice shot, right?
Yeah, exactly. And I'm trying to hold on. Let me download. Why is this not downloading?
While you're looking for that, Chris, I wanted to ask you real quick. You were talking about being on bariatrics. I got the gastric sleeve done in January of this past year. Started the pre-op diet in December of 23 and have gone down 120 from then till now. And yeah, did you get any of that done? Did you do the band or the sleeve or?
I had an RNY. So,
okay.
Because I had some acid reflux issues, and as my doctor put it, the sleeve takes a low pressure system and turns it into a high pressure system, and that is not the right answer if you have acid reflux. So I had mine done.
You don't have a hiatal hernia, do you?
I'm sorry, what?
You don't have a hiatal hernia, do you?
No.
Yeah, that's what I have. That's what causes my reflux. I was just curious when you said that.
No, mine was probably mostly mechanical because I had a lot of extra weight that was pushing on the system and causing the valves to not work right. But I have mostly silent acid reflux. I've only had a couple of acid in the mouth incidents. I have a little bit of silent acid reflux where it just basically opens a little bit and vapors try to dissolve the back of my throat and I cough a lot.
When I first started looking into it, I was going to do the band, but when I went in for the first consultation, found out that the band really has fallen out of favor. Like the doctors just aren't doing it anymore because there's constantly adjustments you need to make with it.
Yeah,
you do have a foreign body that's in there, right? There's the slipping, and they said that really anymore these days it's harder to find a doctor doing the band. They've just moved away from it.
The band only lasted a couple of years as being sort of a premier thing.
Yeah.
And the other, there was the thing with the balloon, which 6 months.
Yeah, that was around for a hot minute.
Yeah, and because they very quickly discovered that that doesn't work. They leak. Mm-hmm. And so they ended up having to take all those out. I knew one of the guys who was a member of the support group when I was in Charlottesville. He had the band and they had to remove it. And then he ended up getting an RNY afterwards.
Man.
So he got to do surgery twice. So.
Let's, okay. So I've got we're going to share here.
All right.
Where did it go? I've got a couple different.
We should start working on the script now for the sequel to Axanar called Axanar Weight Loss.
Yeah.
So, I was thinking if you wanted to do maybe the Orville, is it if you wanted to do the parody version of Star Trek, I can imagine this scene that takes place where one guy insists on always hitting the organic setting on the replicator, and everybody else gives him shit for that because it doesn't matter. Why are you using the organic setting? That's just marketing.
Makes the lights on the ship dim when you use it. Just that setting.
That's funny. Yeah, that's a short. All right, here's a scene I'm going to show you.
All right.
Boom. Now this is previs, and obviously it's a D7 attacking some Starfleet ships, including a Vulcan one. So that was
hats off to the people that know how to do this stuff.
Yeah, no, there it is again. Just show you that. Use one of our. I totally forgot what we named. I think it's the Hermes class is the small little one. So there's one shot. Let's see. Here is another shot.
Love
and
it.
Here, obviously, D6 is diving in. And as you see, one of the things you'll see, and I'm going to play that again, is what we're showing is we're trying to show, we're trying to shoot it in a way that you just typically don't see Star Trek being shot, right? Mm-hmm. We always talk about everything being on the space lake, right? Everything's two-dimensional. Well, we're not trying to do that. We're trying to do the opposite of that, to show that space is three-dimensional. So it's not only the way the ships move, like in that last shot, you saw a Klingon coming up from below the Starfleet ships, but it's also how you use the camera. We think that's pretty important. Obviously, something you've seen more in the JG did a lot more of different things in Star Trek 2009, especially. But I think that the way things in Star Trek are is still that it's still just way too two-dimensional. What happens in space, and I think you need to give the fans a little more credit that they know what they're that they can understand that space is three-dimensional and that you can have ships appearing in different ways. I think those are. Let's see, what else do I have anything else on this computer here that I can share with you right now?
And even, I think really every franchise does that. Even Star Wars is just conceptualizing. Yeah. We know that space is three-dimensional, but it's hard to show it on screen because we're used to everyone meeting face to face and kind of on the same even plane. And it's tough to break your mind of that habit that everything's in a straight line when you're watching something in space.
Yeah. Yeah. And Realm, we do too. I think that the TOS era is, it's something that unfortunately they've kind of thrown out by bringing us this, discovery. And even with Star Trek New Voyages, Strange New Worlds, which I love, they overdo and that bridge. I'm sorry, the bridge in Star Trek Strange New Worlds is obnoxious.
You don't like the bridge?
No, don't. I hate it. It's just way too much. Too much.
There's
things that I like about it. I mean, I really like the homage to the old control panels that they had. I like that, but there's just, you didn't have to go that far. At some point, again, you need the problem with a lot of the production designers that they don't understand is that basic concept that Doug Drexler talks about all the time: form follows function, right? And so understanding that, and I know Chris talks about it all the time on Starfleet Tactical, is there a reason that the Bridge of Discovery had to be the width of a football field?
Yeah.
It made absolutely no sense. Right?
You don't want your command space. I say this as somebody who spent a lot of time in Navy command spaces. You don't want your command space to be so big that you have to yell across the room to communicate. Now, a lot of those guys would be on radios anyway. I've watched two people literally sitting 3 feet apart talk to each other on the radio. And the reason why is because other people are listening in on that conversation and they need to hear it. But you don't want it like that. And the other thing that drives me nuts about that stuff is it's all reflections, and and everywhere you look, you're staring into a light. You know, try to think, if you had to sit down and do paperwork, you know, you had to sit down and read something, or you had to sit down and write something. Think about what your eyes are going to be telling you after about 20 minutes.
Right.
They're going to be screaming at you.
Yeah.
Because every place you look, you're staring into an LED, like a fairly bright light, and you're seeing lots of chrome and reflections off of it. And it's a nightmare.
Well, the other thing too is it's a waste of oxygen. See, that's one of the things that, I mean, even J.J. Abrams, it drove me crazy that they had this, you know, long bridge, causeway across nothing. And I'm going, you know, that's one of the things I always had about Star Wars is, you know, this is space you're conserving. That's why when I design my bridge, that's why I like Alex Bridge, is they're small, they're compact. I mean, I think of mine more as a submarine control area. That's what a spaceship is going to be like, I think.
And even if for quality of life reasons, you want to increase the amount of square footage per person to sort of, you know, give people a sense of space, you don't do it by having bridges over big gaps, right? I mean, I'll give JJ credit. At least he put in handrails.
True.
Which is a technology that apparently never made it into the Star Wars universe. But it's just like, you know, you're going to go places, and you're going to be in battles, and all sorts of things are going to happen, and nothing good comes from having everything being the cosmic Zahadum. Nothing good comes from that, right? Yeah, it's just crazy in that regard. It's just crazy.
There does seem to be a lot of empty space on these bridges now in modern Trek, which I get what you guys are saying. It makes sense that it seems like there's a lot of misuse of functionality by having these bridges that are the same floor plan as a house by itself. Yeah. So yeah, you know, I get that. I don't know what the solution to that would be. I don't know if it's an issue of they're scaling the size of the bridge because of the size of the ships. Because when you look at a ship like the original Constitution class and its bridge, and then you go to a Galaxy class, well, the length of a warp nacelle on a Galaxy class starship is the same as the length of an entire Constitution class ship.
Yeah.
So when you talk about how much the ship size scales, would you still be on a bridge that same size, this little dome on top of a large ship? Would that look right? Would that be realistic? Does that scale correctly? And I think that's kind of what they get themselves into. Just look at the size of the bridge on the Star Trek Into Darkness, the Vengeance.
Oh, Vengeance.
Yeah, the JJ Enterprise is about the same as a Galaxy class starship, so it's much larger. Now you got the Vengeance, which is even bigger, and you almost feel like, well, I guess we have to make the bridge open and spacious just to scale with the rest of the ship. And then that's where you get kind of these ridiculously sized bridges where, you know, if I'm the captain and my comm officer is over there, it's like he's a city block away. And I
mean, every now and then you should call him up and ask him what the temperature is over in, you know, what's the weather over in your part of the bridge? Is it really?
But listen, if you look at, let's say, I'll defer to Chris on this. If I look at the bridge on a destroyer, or let's just say or an Arleigh Burke class, compared to our newest aircraft carrier, how much bigger is the aircraft carrier bridge than the Arleigh Burke?
So I haven't been on a forward bridge. I have been on a bridge of a Nimitz, and I spent a fair amount of time in the flag bridge of Nimitz's because the flag bridge generally isn't used, and it's a good place to go watch flight ops if you don't want to go out in the weather. So they're substantially larger. They are substantially larger, but they're not that much larger, right? The ship is about 20 times the size. So you've got 100,000 tons versus about 7,000 tons. But the bridge isn't 20 times bigger.
Right. And that's it. A bridge, it has a certain function. It doesn't matter if that function, especially when we're talking about starships, whether that is in a, in as Tupou says here, a Saladin class, or whether it's in a Galaxy class, it's still the bridge. It still has some functions. You still need X number of people. Maybe you need a few more people, right? Yeah. But you don't need, the size does not scale with the size of the ship. And in addition, the point that someone just made here, which I think we all agree with, is Star Trek has kind of gotten to this thing where the bridge is always on the top of the saucer section, which also makes no fucking sense, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Where's the CIC? Tell me, where's the CIC in a ship usually?
So it depends upon the ship. If it's a Ticonderoga class cruiser, it's 2 levels down, I think, from the bridge in the superstructure. Interestingly, if you look at the pictures of the CIC of a Ticonderoga class cruiser, the quote unquote front of CIC is actually pointed off to port. When you come in on the left-hand side of the bridge and the CIC, and you're actually facing to the left. And it's just
kind of like the TOS bridge.
With the offset, the 36 degree or 32 degree or whatever it is offset. No, it's not that much. It's like 16. I forget.
Something like that. Yeah.
In any event, I did an entire show on that. So the Combat Information Center in a Tycho is a rectangular shaped room, and they decided that for optimal setup, it was oriented the wrong way. So they just pointed everybody off to the side. On a Nimitz class aircraft carrier, it's on the 03 level, so it's below the flight deck, pretty much right below the superstructure. So you keep on going down in the ladders in the superstructure, and right underneath where it connects to the flight deck is where you find the Combat Direction Center. It's not called CIC on an aircraft carrier. It's called the Combat Direction Center. And those guys are actually facing aft. So the big screens face aft for reasons that I don't understand why they do that.
That's so disorienting.
Well, the thing is, you're inside the skin of the ship, and there are no windows anyway. So it's a little disorienting. It's only disorienting when you have to think in terms of what the outside world looks like. And most of the time you're sort of, you're in your own little cave and you don't have to think about that. Right.
But don't you feel movement? Don't you feel that you're moving that way?
On an aircraft carrier, occasionally you'll feel some movement. There was only really one day on an aircraft carrier where I really seriously felt movement, and we were in pretty heavy seas. Most of the time, it's pretty stable. On an Arleigh Burke, CIC is facing forward, and it's down. It's in the main part of the hull. I don't believe it's below the water line, though, but it is in the main part of the hull. Basically close to directly below the bridge, but it's farther down. So
yeah.
And the other thing is to keep in mind that really sort of differentiates Star Trek command spaces from how the U.S. Navy does stuff. The bridge is basically where all the stuff is, right? In one episode of the original Star Trek, you had phaser control. And you have some semi-canon sources that will make references to CIC, but you never actually see it. And you've got the battle bridge as your alternate system command bridge, which you could theoretically use even if you're not separated. But everything else is on the bridge, whereas on a U.S. Navy ship, the bridge, or the pilot house, as it's technically called, is about navigation. It's about controlling the speed and the direction of the ship and stuff like that. Everything that's about firing weapons takes place down in the Combat Information Center. And everything that's about flying airplanes takes place someplace else. So there's a separate control tower. There's a separate flight deck control. So you got the people that do air traffic control. You've got the people that fight the ship, and you've got the people that are sort of managing the airport. And they're all in 3 different locations, none of which are the bridge.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
Hey, by the way, we have I noticed that there were a bunch of new people here today. Tupoa Turner Silver. There's William Wells. How are you doing, sir? Let's see, Derek Rubicki. Wow, we've got a bunch of people. I mentioned Realm. Here's Dima Verboski, Daily Quick Bites. All you guys knew. I really want to urge you, look down below, scrolling to the Axanar Newsletter. Go to our website, axanar.com/newsletter, sign up. That's the best way you get all of our emails, and you'll find out. We announce when we're doing live streams. You'll get notifications of our podcast. Whatever news is coming up, it's the best way to really stay in touch with what Axanar is doing. In that way, you'll get notifications of the blog posts we make. So if you don't know what's going on, you can say, "Oh, let me just check out the website." But really, check out that newsletter, and then you'll hear about everything that's going on with us. So. Anyway, okay, I'm going to totally change the subject now.
Oh, before you do,
go ahead.
So Cousin Cheeto, I'm going to throw it up. Cousin Cheeto makes a comment about the human brain being on top of the body and not being well protected, et cetera, et cetera. Going back to the bridge on top, right? Mm-hmm. So I totally and completely agree that bridge should be in the middle of the ship. Although it's been pointed out that if you've lost your shields, you're in a pre-plasma state anyway. So at that point, it doesn't really matter where you are. But I do like what Sternbach and Okuda in the sacred text said about their explanation as to why the bridge is on the top. And it's also the explanation as to why it changes every time there's a new movie. And, it constantly changed during the episode. The idea is that it's hot swappable. Basically, you can go in, and there's also an argument that's been made that it's right on top of the computer core for reasons of easy access and speed of control, and so you want it right on top of the computer core. I take those two ideas and go one step further and say that when they replace the bridge, they have the option of just popping the computer core out also and sliding a new one in.
True. That's all very true.
You could still make that argument that should be sitting in the secondary hull, right between, right at the base of the neck.
But you've already got the warp core there, and that's enough. You flick a warp core, containment gone.
Bad.
Yeah.
Keep the people as far away from the antimatter as possible.
At least the Shinzo appeased our thoughts on all of this and put the bridge on the underside of the saucer. So there was that, which was, I thought, pretty cool to finally see. That was the series premiere of Discovery, the USS Shinzo, Giorgio's ship, and that was,
you mean,
which I thought that
the USS Ares analog,
right? Yeah.
Yeah. So I threw up this thing. I want to second Stephen Ross's recommendation for Albedo. The Albedo was a graphic novel. It started off as a comic. They then compiled the Irma Feldna EDF portions of it. It's a really, really cool thing with modular starships where you can they're all pie wedges that sort of go into place, and it's also ships that are stacked like buildings, which I've got a fondness for. So big fan of Albedo. Don't let the fact that it's a furry comic deter you from reading it. They're all long out of print at this point, so you'll have to track them down.
Interesting.
And there was 3 different editions of a role-playing game that's got some really, really crunchy technical stuff in it. And you can find most of that stuff Like I said, way out of print. If you search for it as a PDF, you can generally find most of it.
Mhm.
Yesterday, I watched Dune 2.
Oh, I haven't seen that yet. No spoilers. I'm probably gonna watch that maybe today.
Well, it's kind of hard not to spoil Dune. But
yeah, I did it to myself.
I will say
1965. That book came out in 1965.
Yeah.
I seen the first one.
did either you guys seen the second one, Chris or Frank?
I haven't seen it yet.
Well,
I haven't seen it yet.
you got to watch it. It's
Yeah.
fucking amazing. I was blown away. I had put it on to be background while I did some work on. I had to do all the books for the animal rescue, and get them up to date. Make sure I'm everything is really specific, since especially because I've been loaning money to the animal rescue because we haven't raised enough money. Which we have. By the way, if you want to donate to our GoFundMe, we have a GoFundMe campaign, and I will get the I will get the link for you here presently, and you can check it out. But so I put it on in the background, hoping that I didn't really have to pay attention to it. And unfortunately, I had to pay attention to it. I was rewinding it, and then I'd have to take the dogs out and come back in and rewind it. It was, first of all, it's gorgeous. I have zero qualms on how beautiful that movie is. The first one was beautiful, and I liked the first one. I thought it was a worthy, remake. The second one, I'm just like, holy shit! It's like, holy shit! I got to go back and watch that movie again. It is so freaking awesome. It's beautiful. It's on point. I never read the book, so I can't tell you how close it adheres to the books, which I really don't give a shit. I'm more interested in is it great storytelling, and it was great. It was freaking fantastic. So I'd love to hear what the people out in the audience who are watching have to say about it. But I'm sure they're going to urge you all. I saw it on, I think it was on HBO, was what I was watching. Max, the Max service. But I don't. I honestly, oops, sorry. So
the only gripe
to somebody.
The only gripe that I have about the Dune, not the 1984 version, but the one that came out a few years ago, I'm just not a big fan of Timothée Chalamet, who they cast as Paul Atreides. I just don't see it. And I read an article about that actor that I think the article was, I don't know if it was about nepotism, but it was something like that. Basically, this guy has not auditioned for any role. It's like he's just kind of been given things. Someone in his family, whether it's a parent or somebody, is pretty high up in Hollywood, and essentially he's just given parts. And to be honest with you, if that's true, if I didn't misread that and I remember correctly, that seems to be what tracks, because I felt like of any role that of every role they cast in that movie, his was the one that seemed the most off. Like there could have been somebody better that was cast in that part.
I liked him. I really? Liked him more in the second one than I did the first. Again, I like the second one a lot more. But he's good, and I think he gets better as the second movie moves on.
Okay.
Yeah,
I'll reserve judgment till I see the second one.
Check it out. There were there are elements of the old movie, the David Lynch version, and of course David Lynch tried to fit everything into one movie. Here we have two movies. Basically, it ends at the same point as the David Lynch movie ends. But it's very clear there's going to be a third one. And I'm impressed with the scale of the movie. You definitely feel that there are thousands of people in these battles, or hundreds of thousands of people, and everything. I will say that I thought Christopher Walken was the wrong choice for the Emperor. not that he's bad, but I just okay. I think Christopher Walken has become Christopher Walken in all his roles, right?
Right.
Yeah,
right.
So when you try and you see Christopher Walken, so try to get him out of that and play something else. I'm sorry. Once I hear Christopher Walken's voice, I'm like, I'm just thinking about a Saturday Night Live skit.
Who would you have put in his place?
Right. That's a good question. I mean, in David Lynch's movie, he had Jose Ferrer, who's of course just a legendary Hollywood golden age actor, who was brilliant. Who would you have?
Yeah, Jose Ferrer was a better actor than he demonstrated in that movie.
Yeah, he didn't have much to deal with in
that. But part of it is, I always thought that David Lynch had the wrong approach in a couple of ways. So first of all, the entire secret weapon stuff was just a bad decision.
What secret weapon? What do we?
Oh, the sound.
Oh, I hated that.
Yeah. It's just
without giving it away. Sorry about the spoiler. It's not in the second part of Dune.
Yeah, and it shouldn't be because it wasn't in the book. Right. That was just something they made whole cloth because they decided it would be too hard to actually try to do it the right way. And so they invented, after building these lavish sets that characters walked through, they then decided to save money by simplifying the actual content of the movie, which was, I thought, a shall we say, a bold decision on the part of David Lynch and the people making that movie. The other issue, though, I had with it is you start off the David Lynch Dune with this scene where Jose Ferrer starts off and says, "As you know, Bob, we're both androids and we must recharge every 4 hours or we'll die." Right. And so I got it. They're trying to pull the audience in, but there's no suspense in that movie because he sort of threw it away at the very, very beginning. And he could have made a movie that was who killed House Atreides. It could have been a mystery about, and you don't find out that the Emperor's actually behind it all until the end. But that's not what they did. I actually think that making the Dune movie was a mistake. This current one was a mistake.
Why is that?
And it's not that it's not a fantastic movie. It's that it should have been a fantastic TV show.
Well, Dune was they did do a TV show on it.
Channel. Yeah.
Yeah, in the mid 2000s on the Sci-Fi Channel.
Yep.
No, they did a mini series.
Right, the mini series.
They did two mini-series. And it was okay. It had some really, really good things, and then it had some other things that like I hope the costume designer used a pseudonym so that they were able to live it down. But other than that, yeah, no.
So, but see, think about this. Think about if that first movie had been the first season of a Game of Thrones like thing, where they're trying to make contact with the Fremen, and at the same time that there's a plot going on, and they're trying to figure out the permutations of the plot, etc., etc., etc. That first, I spent the entire time watching that first movie saying, "This should have been season 1. This should have been season 1." It would have been fantastic.
It's interesting.
Yeah, I can appreciate that. I think so. It's going to be interesting to see what the third season is. The third movie is. But I think so far, having seen the Lynch version a few times and seen the miniseries, the Sci-Fi miniseries on Sci-Fi Channel, I definitely think this is the best version of Dune that we've seen so far. And I think I will be interested to read some reviews because I'm interested to see what other people think of it. Which I think is which is something I'm less interested in nowadays, because of YouTube and the YouTube industrial complex and the need to vilify everything because that's how you get ratings on YouTube. I'm just sick and tired of everyone bashing everything. So since you guys haven't said, who's seen The Acolyte? Okay.
I've seen The Acolyte.
I'm going to start making it. If you don't start watching this shit, you're not going to be welcome on this show anymore, guys. Come on. Come on. You guys got
to get current.
Yeah, get current. So, Jefferson, what do you think of The Acolyte? Did you see this third episode?
I did. So, I right now with The Acolyte, I feel like I'm neutral. I don't dislike it, and I don't think that it's better than anything else out there. I'm okay with it. I'm fine with it. I would have to say that it hasn't really grabbed me yet. Not like The Mandalorian did.
Right.
Or, you know, I feel like I'm watching it and I'm waiting for it to get good. I do see why it's getting so much hate online. And this was a comment I made on a Facebook post, was that The Acolyte has 3 of the I hate this show elements going for it, which these days are minorities, females, and children. So any show that has any combination of those 3 elements, then people hate that show. And I made a reference to Discovery, that Discovery was hated on since it premiered in 2017 because the main character had 2 out of the 3 we hate this show criteria, minority and female. Doctor Who was another reference I made. It has 2 out of the 3 we hate this show criteria, a minority main character and a female main character. So I can see why there's so much hate for The Acolyte and for Disney, because right now the fandoms of different shows, whether it's Star Trek, Star Wars, or Doctor Who, but fandoms out there seem to really have a dislike for children, minorities, and females.
All right. I'm going to push back on that.
Okay, let's hear it.
And here's why I'm going to push back. I am going to agree that there is hatred leveled for those reasons.
Yeah.
Absolutely. It is not the majority of people who are watching. It is the majority of the reviewers on YouTube. And again, this gets to my comment about the YouTube industrial complex.
Yeah.
It is all, this is the problem. The problem is that, take whoever you want in the kind of the fandom menace group of people, all of those, that type, not just the fandom menace, but anyone who may have been peripherally related to them or is like them.
Mm-hmm.
It is in their interest to generate hatred for these shows because it is what drives attention. All social media is outrage based.
Yeah.
Facebook, Instagram, you name it, YouTube and Facebook especially drive views by creating outrage. That is how they work. Yeah. And so these people are generating views to their channels by generating outrage against the shows. And the predominant way they're doing it is by what you say, it's woke, which means right. They hate it because it's a woman or it's a minority, or for a lesser extent, I think, because it's children. But that is their definition of woke, and woke is bad, and woke is the evil of in Hollywood right now. And I think that's all bullshit, because Discovery, what I did not dislike, and I think most people that I know that hate Discovery, it was not because it's a female and it's a minority, because we loved Cisco and he was black, and we love Voyager and she's a female. It has nothing to do with it. It's the writing sucked. That's the problem with Discovery. They said it in the past and retroed everything. They had shitty looking Klingons. They had a captain who we hate. I hate Burnham. She's a whiny little whatever. Yeah. And she just cries in every other fucking episode. And that's not the actress's fault. It's the writer's fault. And the writing is bad. That's my problem.
And I came up with a little, I sat down and thought about Burnham was actually one of the characters where I came to this conclusion. And I think it's important to realize if you hate a character, the character seems to be authentic. That's the wrong way to phrase it. It's the difference between hating the character because because the actor isn't any good, and it being a writing or directing problem, right? If the character is doing the wrong thing, but the actor successfully convinces you of the emotions behind it, then good actor, bad director, or bad writer, right? Mm-hmm. But if you sort of go like, I'm just not buying that what the actor is trying to sell, that's an issue of bad writing or a bad acting. So I have no problem with the actress who plays Burnham. I think she's perfectly a fine actress, but the writing and the directing just left me cold for all of that.
Right, and Brian makes a good point here. It's like, well, let's make her Spock's sister. Why? Why do we need?
I get that.
Everything about Discovery was rehashing. Why was it set? In the time period it was set. Why are you rehashing that? Why are you bringing up Spock? There was so much derivative. There was so much relying on old stuff. And then you're disrespecting it all. I'm sorry, the whole Spock sister thing was disrespecting the canon. The whole setting this all, in time before Kirk. Basically, because let's face it, this was what Prelude to Axanar was doing. So let's just do that because everyone loves Prelude to Axanar. So let's do a Klingon war and then set it 20 years before Kirk. That's all. The problem was it was all fucking bullshit and bad acting.
Mm-hmm.
No one is having that complaint now with Strange New Worlds now, and everyone loves Anson Mount. Do they love him because he's a white man? No, they love him because he's a fucking awesome Captain Pike. That's what, and we all love. Listen, we all love number one. We all love Rebecca Romaine. She's awesome, right?
Yeah.
I love Carol Kane as the engineer. I think she's hysterical, right?
Yeah.
There's a lot of good stuff. And so, yes, there are a lot of people bitching because of women and minorities. Absolutely.
Right.
And I hate it. But that's not what's wrong with Discovery.
No, that's not what's wrong with Discovery.
Go ahead.
I mean, I can tell you the exact moment when I stopped watching. And let me stipulate for the record, if you like Discovery, hey, that's great. Go enjoy the thing that you enjoy. Just don't ask me to enjoy it. And I can tell you the exact place where I stopped enjoying it. And I said, I'm done. Because I had made my peace with it. It's like, okay, this isn't really Star Trek as far as I'm concerned, but there's a lots of inconsistencies with Star Trek. And it seemed to be okay science fiction. And so like, you know what, I'm just going to go ahead and watch it for itself. I'm not going to consider it to be part of anything else. I'm going to watch it for itself. Then we got to the end of season 2. And we got the big space battle where you have things like, first of all, the Enterprise gets hit and and a hole is blown in the ceiling and a couple of doors snap shut over the hole because there are just random doors all over the outside of the hull ready to close if there's damage to the outer hull. They've just got doors everywhere. And okay. But the thing that really, really killed me was the entire episode with the photon torpedo and the blast door. So I can forgive them that they didn't think about things like, we're dead anyway. Why don't we just shoot it with a phaser and see what happens? Maybe we can damage it with a phaser and it won't detonate. Let's go ahead and do that, right? Okay. All right. Roger that. I'll press the I believe button. But this entire idea that Anson Mount can go and stand behind something called a blast door
with the window,
the photon with a big window, and watch the photon torpedo go off, and the photon torpedo blows off the front third of the saucer section, and he's 20 feet away from it, but it's okay because he's standing behind something called a blast door, and as a result, he's invulnerable. And between that and, putting 400 fighters on the flight deck and the doors and stuff like that, I just said, you know what? I have as much respect for Alex Kurtzman as he has for me. I'm never going to watch this show again. And I haven't.
Right.
I don't think
I get you. When you say it like that, well, no, yeah, we all had the same thing with that. But getting back to the Acolyte, I would have to say I get that it's fallen victim to outrage culture, and Alec, you're right. The way to get views and likes in social media these days is to hate something, and that's how it is. And the Acolyte just happens to be good fodder because it's using minorities, females, and children. So it's the trifecta. Anyone who has a social media that they want to get likes on our channel, subscriptions, views. Right now, the hot ticket is to hate the Acolyte. If you do that, if I wanted to double the subscriptions on Beyond Trek Podcast right now, I would start doing a hateful review each week of the Acolyte, and the numbers would explode. But I'm not going to do that because that's not my thing. I'm not going to buy into the hate sphere of fandom just for the views and likes, even though I know that it's there and could get it. Just that's not my bag.
I think it is important to note, though, that there are some people are popular. Some people hate on things because it's a way to be popular. Some people are popular because they hate on things.
Right.
So some people are being cynical in their approach. Other people are sincere. So some people, now they're all dicks, right? They're the people that are dicks because they're manipulating the system, and they're being jerks because they get rewarded for being jerks. And there are other people that are just jerks,
right?
And it turns out the system is rewarding them, right? Yeah. I at least have, I won't say respect, but I have at least some understanding for the people that are following the algorithm. Right.
Sure. Play the system. They're just playing the system. So
I hate to get political, but it's basically the people that actually believe the MAGA bullshit, and the people like Margot Rubio and Lindsey Graham who are just doing it because they know that's the way they got to be successful. Yeah.
Only the nouns change.
Yeah. Exactly. And I got it. I had a comment with Bing Bailey, who's our DIT and our colorist, who's just been with Axanar since the beginning. And I love Bing, but he posted negatively about the Acolyte, and I just got on his thread and I just said, I'm just not convinced it's bad. I mean, I've watched it so far, and I'm like, okay, interesting. It hasn't wowed me, but it hasn't disappointed me. I thought the third episode was interesting, and I'm like, oh, okay, got it. Good, that's interesting. And so now I know why things are. I'm reserving judgment. I don't feel the need, and I don't feel the need after 2 episodes. He wrote after the first 2 episodes to just go off on it. I was just like, what was so bad about it? Why was I didn't find the writing to be. It's almost like it was kind of innocuous. How could you just be so outraged about the first 2 episodes? Almost nothing happened. Like, oh, okay, we had a great fight, great Jedi fight, one of the best Jedi fight. I love that fight, and okay, this is interesting. So, and then I said, and then people and what people do is they ride the wave. They ride the wave from I hate this to I hate what Disney has done to Star Wars. And I was like, what has Disney done to Star Wars? Yes, granted, we all hate the 3 sequels. We can all agree with them that they're all shit, despite the fact that Force Awakens making $2 billion. Okay, let's agree that those were bad. But Disney TV, I mean, it's done a lot better than Star Trek on TV. I mean, really, realistically, outside of a bad season of Boba Fett, and maybe some people liked and some people didn't like the Obi-Wan series. Mandalorian was great. Ahsoka was great. Andor is just phenomenal. I mean, what? Why do you need to be bitching about? Yes, Boba Fett was legitimately. That season of Boba Fett was legitimately weak. Granted, but that doesn't mean that and Kathy Kennedy has turned over running the Star Wars franchise to Dave Filoni. So
is good.
What are you complaining about? Right.
Yeah,
right.
And it's not like George Lucas. Everything George Lucas did was automatically great. I mean,
right.
Have you seen episode 1?
Yeah, all these people seem to selectively have forgotten episode 1. And you know what's funny is I didn't care too much for Andor. Everyone seems to love it. I don't know. I didn't. I guess I didn't get it. Maybe I need to watch it again. But you know,
I put all of the Star Trek stuff. Like I always say for Starfleet Tactical, if somebody brings up something from Star Wars, I always say I don't analyze Star Wars because you can't. It just doesn't make sense.
Right.
Star Wars is the place I go when I want to be 12 again.
Yeah.
It's fantasy.
But it doesn't mean that I can be very critical at it and still about it and still appreciate it for what it is. I mean, this is a universe where they build droids that are capable of independent operation for decades at a time, but they can't build a decent guided missile. Okay, so this is a universe where if you want to flush your toilet, you have to go out to your mailbox. I mean, it's crazy. There's a lot of stuff in this universe that just doesn't make any sense. And I quit trying to make it make sense. And I'll watch it and go, okay, I enjoyed that. That's great. And if I don't enjoy it, I don't watch it again. So, but I don't feel like I have to be that passionate about it. In the same way that I have a tendency to with Star Trek. I'm much more likely to be passionate about Star Trek than I am about Star Wars. So
yeah, and I'm less into Star Wars from like really understanding the canon and everything because I don't follow. There's so much of it, so I'm less inclined to not be happy with Star Wars. Whereas Star Trek, I'm like, well, you can't do that because blah 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 blah. Right.
Yeah, and Star Wars is like we can do whatever the hell we want. It's science fantasy. We can make up things, whereas Star Trek is supposed to be grounded in science, like reality.
Yeah, science fiction instead.
This Cheeto. This was my one nitpick with it. Yeah, she was amazing, and I was like, I want to see her. I want her in the entire series, and they killed her off. Yeah, that kind of sucked. And I was like, oh man.
I was surprised by that too, but maybe that was just, I didn't think that was going to happen, and that kind of surprised me. But I mean, it is what it is. I guess maybe they didn't have the budget to have her in the whole series.
Or maybe it was her idea.
It could be, yeah. Well, I mean, she's in episode 3, so there is that. It's not like right. It's not like she's not going to be in other flashbacks, and if you're going to have the death of a character, which basically is the carry of your series, then that character I think should be a big name. It shouldn't be nobody, because if one of the main points of the driving plot, or at least that kicks off the plot for that series, is the death of a high-ranking Jedi. If that's what the plot is supposed to be, then get somebody big name for that part. If it was a nobody, well, why would you hinge the driving force of your first season's plot on the death of a nobody? Make it something surprising like that. Put a big name in there, and then kill off that character. There are several times where actors, their idea of making a story better is the death of their character. Leonard Nimoy wanted it. Harrison Ford wanted it. I was just reading the behind the scenes on Armageddon, because that just happened to be on one day. Bruce Willis, one of his conditions for that movie was he wanted the death of his character.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah. So there are several things out there where the actor, you couldn't get them back unless you killed their character, and it was the actor's idea. So that's not unheard of. Yeah. It could have been Carrie Ann Moss's idea for that.
Well, the original Battlestar Galactica. I'm drawing a blank. She played Serena. Dr. Quinn, Medicine Woman.
Yeah.
I know who you're talking about.
Jane Seymour.
Yeah, Jane Seymour.
Jane
Seymour said, I'll sign up for like 3 episodes.
Right.
Yeah, you got me for like 3 episodes. So she was willing to do it, but she wasn't willing to do a series.
Right. Right.
Yeah, you can understand that.
Series is a grind.
Yeah. By the way, and getting back to Jefferson, what you said about you weren't crazy about Andor. Andor is very different from the other Star Wars series because one, we're really not that familiar with the characters or the setting. Right. So everything's new, and the character is really, especially the first season, finding its own way. But that's I will argue that is one of the best written series. But it definitely plays more like an art house film than it does, a big time picture. You really have to appreciate the world building that goes into that series is amazing, and really the subtleness of the characters. The characters are very, especially Cassian Andor and Stellan Skarsgård's character. They're really and Mon Mothma too is we're learning all about her. The characters are really subtle, and you're learning about them, and you're learning what makes them up. So it's a very different feeling, and I would argue that it's a little more of a slow burn than what you're used to in Star Wars. And it's also a little, it's a little oppressive because you're dealing with the fucking Imperium, and it's like, oh my God, so it's not like there's this army over there and we've got to defeat them. It's so there's.
And I didn't particularly dislike Andor. I raised my eyebrows at how much people like it. Like I was just, okay, maybe I missed something, but I thought it was okay. But the surprise of it being liked so much is just as surprising to me as people that really like Lower Decks. I don't care for Lower Decks. I watch it out of obligation because I've got to stay current. That's the reason they lost me. I don't even want to get into Lower Decks, but yeah.
How can you not like something that canonized the Spock helmet?
I know, right?
Yeah, sure. I mean, they do a lot of great things. They did. It's just it's a reference show. That's the only strength of it.
Yeah,
it was cool at first, but then when it became what the show was about and all that it was, they kind of lost me there. And then,
but that's why it's only lasted 4 seasons. My take on it is, and I enjoy it.
Well, but there's going to be a fifth.
But they canceled it. 5th and 5. I'm sorry, 5 seasons.
Right.
It lasted 5 seasons because that was pretty much, you can only tell that joke so many different ways, so often. And so that was bound to end.
And in 10 years, they'll do Lower Decks: The Next Generation.
Oh God, no.
But I agree with Realm here. Yes, it was absolutely just like Lower Decks is a different take on the Star Trek universe, or Prodigy is a different take on the Star Trek universe. I think there are different options there, and people are, and what I give Kurtzman credit for is doing just that. Taking different looks at the Star Trek universe, trying to find audiences outside of because Lower Decks is for old time Star Trek fans. Prodigy is for kids. I give them credit. And again, taking all the feedback about Anson Mount and the Enterprise in season 2 of Discovery and giving them their own show. I kind of give Kurtzman credit for all that stuff. At the same time, listen, Discovery was his baby, and Starfleet Academy is his baby, and I'm hoping he's going to redeem himself with Starfleet Academy because I know how
he's already redeemed himself because he cast Paul Giamatti as a villain. So sold, done, close the book. We're watching it. It's that right there is clout.
Yeah, it doesn't mean the show's going to be good. But the fact that he could get Paul Giamatti is who's a big Star Trek fan.
Right.
That's awesome. All right, we're going to have to wrap this up because I got.
I want to throw something up real quick. So, Steven, I got your back. Let me know what con you want to go to, and if I can make it, I'll show up there and have your back on this.
You guys are gonna need some guards and some escorts.
Yeah, really.
There with that. That's a bold statement there, Cotton.
Yeah, that is bold indeed.
Oh man.
Yeah, it works out for him.
Yeah, I can't even get behind you guys on that. Sorry.
Well, listen, I want to thank everyone for coming out today. We appreciate it. Stay in touch with us. You should be part of the newsletter. I've been running that scroll down at the bottom because please make sure that you are subscribed to the Axanar newsletter and getting all the information. So anytime we have a live stream, make sure you're subscribed to this channel and you hit the bell icon. That way you get the notifications of the YouTube videos as well. So there you go. Frank Jefferson, happy Father's Day.
Thank you.
Yep.
Have a good one. Hopefully you get more ties for your collection.
Right. Yeah.
Donna got me a Fitbit.
Oh wow! Very good. Very good. Great chat. And everyone go out there and eat healthy, and we'll chat with you all again soon. So everyone live long and prosper, my friends. And if you have any questions, you know where to reach Alec at Axanar.com. Cheers.